So this presentation is about speciation. We have already seen the different species concepts and the subdivisions of species. Now, how the species is formed, or the process by which a new species is formed, that is what we are going to learn in this particular presentation. Okay, speciation, it is a process by which a new species is formed. Okay, usually it happens from a already existing species, and it is a process of gradual change. Okay, the formation of new species is simply referred as a speciation, and occurs by two methods, that is phyletic speciation and the true speciation. Okay, just 1 minute. Okay. Okay, so we have two kinds of speciation, basically the phyletic speciation and true speciation. Okay, in phyletic speciation you can see that it is a transformation in time of one species to another. So there is transformation of one species to another. Okay, that is what happens in phyletic speciation, and hence only one species exists at a time. Okay, so if there is a species A, it gives rise to B, and from B C arises. That what happens is, at a time in only one of the individuals will be existing. When A evolves to B, A is getting disappeared, B will be there. Okay, when B evolves into C, B disappears and C is the only one which remains. Okay, so that kind of a speciation is what is referred as phyletic speciation. And there are two types of phyletic speciation, that is autogenous and allogenous. Autogenous transformation, like happens where one species is transformed into another by evolutionary factors like mutation, natural selection, genetic drift and migration. While allogenous transformation is when the transformation of one species to another takes place by hybridization, that is crossing with another species. Okay, so autogenous is by way of evolutionary process, allogenous is by hybridization process. So it is phyletic speciation is divided into two based upon how the transformation happens. If it is by evolutionary factors, such kind of phyletic speciation is referred as a autogenous, and if it is by what you call hybridization method, it is known as a allogenous method. Okay, now with respect to true speciation, it is a process by which one species gives rise to two or more contemporary species by a process of multiplication in space. That is, species A may give rise to species B and C simultaneously. Okay, thus two or more species may coexist with the parental species. So when A give rise to B and C simultaneously at the same time, what happens is A, B and C may be coexisting together. Clear? So A as an ancestor, B and C as the descendants, they may be existing together. Right, but in phyletic speciation, what it was, there is only a sequence of what you call species, and one give rise to other, means the first one will be completely disappearing. Okay, so two distinct types of true speciation can be recognized. One is instantaneous and the second is gradual. Instantaneous means it is very fast or momentary, isn't it? So instantaneous speciation is where one species splits into two species at a single step. Okay, and this happens by chromosomal rearrangement and polyploidy, which we have already mentioned when we were discussing about mutations in one of the previous presentations. Okay, so instantaneous speciation, it is actually one species splitting into two species in a single step. Okay, gradual speciation is one where species splits into two species gradually by the accumulation of various genetic factors and reproductive isolation. So it is not a single step process, it is a very gradual process, and here this happens because of the accumulation of smaller genetic changes or variations, okay, factors and reproductive isolation from such similar groups. Okay, gradual speciation can be further divided into sympathetic speciation and allopatric speciation. Right, sympathetic speciation is one where two species may sympathetic, fine. There two species may merge geographically, that is, they occupy same area side by side. Okay, but they are reproductively isolated. So just imagine there is a species A, and during the speciation process some of the individuals will form a subgroup. Okay, so we have subgroup A, I'm sorry, what you call, among in the subgroup, in the whole species A, you have two subgroups, subgroup 1 and subgroup 2. Okay, so these subgroup 1 and 2 are living in the same area. Because of certain reasons, reproductive isolation, certain barriers, these members of the subgroup 1 and members of subgroup 2 cannot interbreed. Okay, so they are reproductively isolated, but they are residing in the same geographical area. And if subgroup 1 will emerge into a species and subgroup 2 another species, obviously this kind of a speciation is known as sympathetic speciation. Okay. In allopatric speciation, the two species are geographically separated. Okay, so what happens is there is no question of having a chance to interbreed. For example, if there are two subgroups, subgroup 1 and subgroup 2 of a particular species, but they get separated because of maybe a new river flowing, or it may be because of a huge mountain range, or it may be because of like formation of a new crest, okay, or something like that. Okay, so these two species may later develop into new species. Okay, so these are the different types of speciation. Now when we look into allopatric and sympathetic speciation in detail, we can see that in some cases the species are allopatric and they are prevented from interbreeding by spatial isolation. Spatial in the sense like geographic isolation. In others, the species are sympathetic, they are reproductively isolated by one or more isolating mechanisms. So this will be isolating mechanisms we will be learning in detail in the coming presentations. Allopatric speciation, the word means different countries. Okay, here you can see one example here. Okay, so it refers to speciation in different places, and it occurs when an original species becomes geographically fragmented into two or more groups, which are then unable to breed with another because of their spatial isolation. Okay, so original species, the members, it becomes two subgroups because of the geographical barrier, and it cannot interbreed. Okay, and such geographical isolation plays an important part in the process in the speciation in allopatric method, and hence it is also known as geographic isolation. Okay, allopatric speciation begins with the formation of a geographic barrier, and it will split a naturally interbreeding populations into two or more subgroups of the species. Initially, the members of the different subgroups, it will share a common gene pool, but once separated, the geographic barrier will prevent the mixing up of genes between them, and the two areas in which the isolation occurs may not be similar in all respects. So in some cases, similar populations are subject to different environmental conditions. Okay, so genetic divergence will occur in them due to mutation, recombination, genetic drift, etc. And then the population will not be able to interbreed even if the barrier is removed. So what it says is, for example, these are this one, the different species of what you call the squirrels found in the north, what you call Grand Canyon. Okay, here what happened is all these had arose from the same species, but these are found in the northern rim and this on the southern rim. Okay, on this part, right? And the Grand Canyon, this huge depression, it acts as a barrier for the interbreeding. So what happened is, from the same species, two subpopulations developed, and these two subpopulations were separated by the Grand Canyon, and these two subpopulations could not interbreed because of this barrier. But this part and this part had its own kind of environmental conditions, okay, microhabitat conditions, and to those microhabitat conditions, the subpopulations, it started to get adapted, okay, genotypically, and hence it slowly developed into two different species which later could not interbreed. Okay, this is a kind of speciation. Okay, so even if the barrier is removed, these two populations may not be able to interbreed later. Okay. So, thus reproductive isolation is set in. So, in the beginning the reproductive isolation may only be partial. So, hence whenever they interbreed, maybe sterile hybrids may have been formed, and natural selection will eliminate these kinds of sterile hybrids by improving and intensifying the reproductive isolation until the populations can no longer interbreed. Okay. And they when it reaches such a condition, the two populations is considered as distinct species. Okay. Thus an allopatric species becomes sympatric. Now, what is sympatric speciation? Sympatric speciation, sympatric, the word means in the same land. So, in other words, if related species occupy side by side in the same area but still are reproductively isolated, it is known as sympatric speciation. Okay. But the two populations cannot live side by side indefinitely, two populations of the same species. So, this is because they compete with each other for the same need, same resources. So, in this competition, the less adapted population may become extinct or may have to migrate to other regions for their survival, right. This will lead to genetic divergence so as to get adapted and use the resources effectively without getting wiped out. This will be followed by reproductive isolation in the populations, and as a result they fail to interbreed, so that gene exchange is completely prevented between them. Okay. So, interbreeding is not possible and these populations later develop into new species. Okay. So, here you can see this is the common stock. Okay. So, two different conditions. Okay, this is very what you call hypothetical condition, but still you can see this it got separated by into two populations, one of them getting this kind of a food habit and another set getting a different like a food what you call conditions, right, food resources, food sources, right. And slowly after generations what happens is this becomes completely genetically and other such characters develop which suits their mode of life, and here another set of conditions develop which suits their mode of life, and these two become completely isolated. Even if it comes together, they may not be able to interbreed. Okay. So, at such situations these two subpopulations may have evolved into two different species. Okay. Here there is no isolation, at the same environment it is happening. Okay. So, after many generations these two subgroups may develop into two different species, right. Now, sympathetic speciation, the origin of new species in the absence of geographic isolation mainly occur in plants, and there are plenty of ways through which sympathetic speciation happen, maybe by polyploidy, by hybridization between distinct species, by self-fertilization, and by apomixis. Apomixis is the production of offsprings from unfertilized gametes or by vegetative means. Okay. So, these are the methods: polyploidy, hybridization between distinct species, self-fertilization, and apomixis can result in sympathetic speciation. Okay. So, these are we can say that the sympathetic speciation is actually speciation between speciation of two subgroups residing in the same area, right. Sympathetic speciation has not been convincingly demonstrated in animals. However, there is some evidence that it might occur in certain insects and in animal parasites. Okay. So, this is about the different types of speciation and the allopatric and sympathetic speciation in detail. Okay. Right. Thank you.